The Battle of Kadesh and the world's first recorded peace treaty. The ancient Near East was a crucible of emerging empires, competing for power, influence, and territory. Among these, the Egyptian Empire under Pharaoh Ramses II and the Hittite Empire under King Muwatalli II stood as dominant forces during the 13th century BC. Their mutual desire to control strategic lands in the Levant, particularly the city of Kadesh in modern-day Syria, led to one of the most significant military encounters in ancient history, the Battle of Kadesh. This battle ultimately gave rise to one of the world's earliest known peace treaties, marking a milestone in the history of diplomacy. Causes of the conflict. The city of Kadesh was a highly coveted location, lying on the frontier between the Egyptian and Hittite spheres of influence. It was situated along key trade and military routes, making a strategic prize for any regional power. Control over Kadesh meant influence over the broader Levantine corridor, which was economically and militarily vital. The Hittites had seized control of the region during a period of Egyptian weakness, prompting Ramses II to mount a campaign to reassert Egyptian dominance and reclaim lost territories. Tensions between the two empires had been escalating for years. Border skirmishes and shifting alliances among smaller Levantine states further inflamed hostilities. Ramses II, eager to secure a legacy of military success early in his reign, led a massive military expedition into Syria in 1274 BC to confront the Hittite forces at Kadesh. The Battle of Kadesh. The Battle of Kadesh was one of the largest chariot battles in ancient history, involving thousands of chariots and tens of thousands of infantry from both sides. Ramses II led an army of 4 divisions, while the Hittite forces under Muwatalli II had prepared a formidable defense and a surprise ambush. Despite an initial setback caused by poor intelligence and a Hittite ambush that scattered one of the Egyptian divisions, Ramses II managed to rally his troops and fight back with determination. According to Egyptian records, the pharaoh personally led a counterattack that stabilized the battlefield. However, while Egyptian accounts describe a great victory, most historians agree that the outcome was militarily indecisive. Neither side was able to fully claim control over Kadesh, and the battle concluded without a decisive victor. The Treaty of Kadesh. Following years of continued hostility and no clear path to victory for either empire, both sides recognized the futility of further warfare. Around 1259 BCE, Ramses II and the new Hittite ruler, Hattusili III, agreed to a formal peace. The result was the Treaty of Kadesh, one of the earliest fully preserved examples of a written international agreement. The treaty was written in 2 languages, Egyptian hieroglyphs and Akkadian cuneiform, the diplomatic lingua franca of the time. Both texts have been discovered, one on a clay tablet in the Hittite capital of Tusa, and the other inscribed on the walls of the Karnak temple in Egypt. Discovery of the treaty and its significance. The Akkadian version of the treaty was discovered in the early 20th century by German archaeologists during excavations at Tusa, modern-day Boğazköy, Turkey, the ancient Hittite capital. The archaeological expedition was led by Hugo Winkler and Theodore Macready, who unearthed thousands of cuneiform tablets in the Royal Archives between 1906 and 1912. Among them was a clay tablet containing the peace treaty between the Hittites and Egyptians. Meanwhile, the Egyptian version of the treaty had long been visible, inscribed on the walls of the Temple of Karnak and the Ramesseum in Thebes, modern-day Luxor. These inscriptions have been studied by Egyptologists since the 19th century. However, it was the matching Hittite version, written from the perspective of the Hittites, that confirmed the treaty's authenticity and provided an extraordinary case of 2-sided documentation. The discovery was groundbreaking. It demonstrated that diplomacy and legal formalism existed at a high level more than 3,000 years ago, including principles still relevant today: mutual non-aggression, extradition agreements, and the pursuit of international cooperation. It also altered the understanding of the Hittite civilization, revealing a literate, politically astute culture with a sophisticated bureaucracy. Moreover, the treaty showed the existence of balanced, reciprocal diplomacy, challenging the often unilateral narrative of ancient texts that glorify one side. This was one of the first times historians had the opportunity to read both sides of an ancient diplomatic agreement, offering rare insight into how different cultures negotiated peace and sovereignty. Today, the Treaty of Kadesh is recognized not only as a historical artifact, but as a symbol of diplomacy's power to resolve conflict. A replica of the treaty hangs in the United Nations headquarters in New York, underscoring its lasting relevance and influence on international relations. Earlier diplomatic precedent, the Ebla Abarsal Treaty. While the Treaty of Kadesh is the earliest fully preserved international treaty, it is not the oldest known reference to diplomatic agreements. An earlier example exists in the form of the treaty between the ancient Mesopotamian city-states of Ebla and Abarsal, dated to around 2500 BCE, roughly 1,200 years before the events at Kadesh. This treaty was discovered in the 1970s by Italian archaeologist Paolo Methi during excavations at Tel Marduk in modern Syria, the site of ancient Ebla. In the archives, over 17,000 clay tablets written in cuneiform were uncovered, including references to the Ebla Abarsal Treaty. Although the full text has not been recovered, it is believed to have outlined terms of peace, trade cooperation, and political neutrality or alliance, highlighting that diplomacy was already well established in the early Bronze Age. Despite being older, the Ebla Abarsal Treaty is more fragmentary and less detailed than the Treaty of Kadesh. Still, it remains a critical piece of evidence for the long history of diplomatic negotiation in the ancient world. Conclusion: the conflict over Kadesh reveals the complex dynamics of power, strategy, and diplomacy in the ancient world. While the Battle of Kadesh may have failed to deliver a clear victor, it catalyzed a diplomatic breakthrough that stands as a foundational moment in international relations. The Treaty of Kadesh, through its dual language preservation and well-defined legal clauses, not only ended hostilities between two major empires, but also offered a blueprint for future diplomatic engagement. Even older references, such as the Ebla Abarsal Treaty, prove that the idea of resolving disputes through written agreements was not new, but the Kadesh Treaty's discovery changed a modern understanding of ancient politics. It illustrated that international law, formalized peace, and reciprocal diplomacy were not merely ideals of the modern world, but practices rooted deep in human history. Its significance extends far beyond its time, reminding us that even in eras of war, humanity has long sought ways to make peace last. Please like and subscribe for more content like this.